bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Yeah. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, it's Monday. Great to be back in the chair. Today is July 24th, 204 days into the new year, just 161 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? Had a great weekend. And it's Monday, so I'm back in the chair. We didn't stop all weekend long. We just did not stop. Friday night over at Coast to Coast. Saturday, the Den of Lore Jaws Marathon. Sunday, got together with the family. That was really, really cool, by the way, because our nephew and his wife announced that they're having a baby. So we, that what was supposed to be just a nice, simple, cookout with the family went full tilt boogie yesterday, and then Saturday went out to dinner with Steve Murillo and his wife Pat, and that was great. So we just had just did it up, did it proper, and had a great weekend. And I would like to welcome everybody tonight because we're going to continue our first-time guests weeks. This is the second week. And tonight, Martin Gray is here. We're going to talk about his life's journey, and an incredible life that he has had, and his journey to sacred sites around the world. He is, amongst other things, he's an amazing photographer. He shoots for National Geographic, and we're going to share some of his images tonight. And you can do that over on Twitter. Just follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, hashtag F2B, and we're going to get those up there. But it is why he is going to all of the sacred sites around the world. And I don't think there is a country that he hasn't been to. And I'm going to find that out tonight, too, as well, because it's extraordinary what he does and how he does it and why he does it. Martin Gray is our guest tonight. And then tomorrow night and Wednesday, we're going to do a two-part series with Ken Knutson and Peter Cameron of Divergent Unity. Ken will be with us tomorrow, and on Wednesday night, Peter's going to be here. These guys are true game changers, okay? So do not miss. This is, it's just going to be an extraordinary week, so do not miss those shows. Thursday night will be another Fader Night with John Rappaport and his No More Fake Newsroom Live, followed by Open Lines. Now, and in a few short minutes, we are going to have River Moon Coffee join us here live in the studio. And Juanita and Jeff will be here. And we're going to talk about some River Moon Coffee and what makes their company so special. And our sponsors here on the show, and do visit all of them, but our sponsors here on the show are all family. Every one of them, and Juanita and Chef are certainly Fadernauts in the truest and purest sense of the word. And they'll be with us in a few minutes. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple enough. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Any questions or comments during the show tonight? Hashtag F2BQ. You can also email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And let me get to a couple of things really quick before I get to River Moon Coffee. Got some breaking news, and it was all over Twitter today, and I saw it, and it was almost too much. There's a Wisconsin company. It has announced that it's going to offer its employees microchip implants that they could use to scan into the building and buy food at work. The company is called 3 Square Market, 32M. And they supply software for break room or micro markets. And they said that over 50 employees there plan on having the chips implanted. That's right, RFID chips, radio frequency identification chips. And that is the technology that they are going to use. Employees will be chipped on August 1st. The reaction on Twitter was complete horror, with many users mentioning, of course, Big Brother and those passages in the Bible that supposedly warn against microchips. But it's actually kicking off. But I can hear it now. You called in sick today, but your microchip shows that you're actually in Las Vegas. You are fired. Think about that. That's crazy. That's nuts. That is just, I'm at the doctor's office. No, you are not. Right? Think about that. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have over 690 archive shows right there, $2 a month. Apple, Android, all platforms. Go to the iTunes store, go to the Google store, and just search Fade to Black. Download the apps that you need. Head over to Libsyn, $2 a month. That's simple. Just click on our podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com, or you can become an official Fadernaut, and you do that in our membership area on the site, where you're going to get the bunker cam. You can get commercial-free downloadable archives. You can get T-shirts, autographed hats, all that stuff by becoming a Fadernaut. There's 4 levels you can do it, all the way from free to full-on game changer. And the links are up there on Twitter. They're, of course, over at our website in our membership area. Check out all of our sponsors while you're on the website. Life Change Tea, GetTheTea.com, of course, River Moon Coffee, New Pharma, Ancient Life Oil, and Studio Dome speakers. Now, Ancient Life Oil, I talked to them today. Wanted to thank everybody over here. Right? Because the response to, they had to switch to mail order only because of the banks. The banks are screwing with them because it's CBD. But you guys have responded. And thank you for that. I just thank you for that. It can be a bit of a hassle, but it's because of the product. All right? And they believe in the product. We believe in it. And CBD is the future. So they called and just said, man, the Fadernauts. Just thank you. So there you go. All right. Mail order only on Ancient Life Oil. Let's get the show cracking right now. Happy birthday to Wonder Woman Linda Carter. Today is 66. And our dead guy's birthday today is Amelia Earhart. 1897 and 1939. They just died at the age of 41. They had those bogus hoaxed photographs that went around last week. And I think History Channel was part of that. And, somebody got taken on that. So, Amelia Earhart, 1897 to 1939. On this day in history, OTD, it happened in 1911. American archaeologist Hiram Bingham gets his first look at Machu Picchu, the ancient Inca settlement in Peru, which is now one of the world's top tourist destinations. Fader fact. An estimated 50 to 80% of all life on Earth is found under the ocean surface. And the oceans contain, are you ready? 99% of the living space on the planet. And I bet you didn't know that. That is a Fader fact. Tonight, very special guest Martin Gray is here. We're going to talk about his life journey and what he does visiting sacred sites around the world and photographing them for himself. For his site, sacredsites.com. You need to check out the link. It's absolutely incredible. And, of course, Nat Geo. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back with Martin Gray.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tepe.
Hi, folks. Let's wind the clocks back 60 years. Food was different. Food provided health and nutrition, and using supplements was minimal. Unfortunately, now we have chemicals, GMOs, herbicides, and pesticides that can be quite lethal in the name of our food supply and, of course, the ever-loving dollar. Supplementing our diets can be very important to stay healthy. Cleansing from daily intruders to the body might be critical. Live strong and take charge. Log on to getthetea.com. Our herbal tea is a great way to cleanse from intruders. Our supplements is a great way to maintain and improve your health. When your health is not up to par, go to getthetea.com. No GMOs, no fillers, and organic, and very helpful in keeping you at the top of your game. Life is too short to feel, you know what I mean. Stay in the game, at the top of your game with getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Again, getthetea.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at kgraradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. kgraradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Matthew, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Martin Gray is with us. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Simple enough. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. We're going to be posting some of Martin's photography there, and you can check it out in real time. He is a photographer of sacred architecture, art, and pilgrimage sites around the world. His father was in the United States Diplomatic Service, and Martin traveled widely around the world. Archaeology, photography, classical music, and art were always around the house, so he was immersed in the arts and antiquities of foreign cultures. When he was 12 years old, the family moved to India for 4 years. During this period, Martin went on frequent journeys, both alone and in the company of wandering holy men, to the temples, mosques, and sacred caves of India, Nepal, and Kashmir. After his family's return to the United States, Martin entered the University of Arizona, but soon left back to India by the call of the spiritual quest and the desire to become a mountain hermit in the tradition of the Theravada Buddhism. Now, while living in northern India, he became a member of a monastic order, and for the next 10 years, both in India and the West, he cultivated a deep practice of meditation. At the age of 28, Gray left the life behind, returned to the United States, and started 2 successful travel companies, which he ended up selling, and he began a 35-year period of traveling as a wandering pilgrim to many hundreds of sacred sites in more than 150 countries. Tonight, we'll discuss the mythology, the archaeology, and the history of sacred sites and the miraculous phenomena that occur in them. His website is sacredsites.com. You can check it out over at jimmychurchradio.com. The links are right there. And I would like to welcome for the first time, Martin Gray. Martin, good evening.
Thank you. Good evening to you and everybody that's listening. Hello.
Yeah, man. It's great. I'm glad that we had the technology to chase you down. And this is going to be a great conversation tonight. And welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And this is what we do. Every first-time guest, Martin, they get the first-time guest disclaimer. Now, when we get you back on the show, you don't get the disclaimer. But tonight...
Okay, well, what is this disclaimer?
The disclaimer is it's just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. Where the conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, and we're going to end as friends. There you go. That's not too bad of a disclaimer, right?
No, that's very good. Thank you.
Now, diplomatic services, I'm an Army brat, so I got to travel the world, too, as well. You probably wouldn't change anything, would you? It's just an absolutely amazing thing to go through as a kid.
Yeah, I was lucky to live in India from 12 to 16. My dad was a military attaché there, and he didn't have the time to travel, and my mother loved to travel, so she started taking me with her around India. So I kind of got trained to travel starting when I was 12 years old. And I went on a few journeys with her, and then they saw that I was getting more skilled at doing it, and they let me go off on my own, and I traveled a good bit of northern India and Nepal on my own during those 4 years that I was in India.
And what, the obvious question is, what did you learn at that point because you were drawn back? What happened?
Well, my father's hobbies, and he wasn't schooled in either of these, but his hobbies were photography and archaeology. And so I was exposed to both of those actually quite a bit before I went to India. And then when I got to India, he gave me a German camera called a Raleigh cord. And I just started taking pictures. And in India, it's such a culturally rich place, and it's so beautiful. And I spent a lot of time just during the days when I was going to school in Delhi, and during those weeks, I'd travel around Delhi. And I had a bicycle, or I'd use these little things called scooter cabs, and I'd move around Delhi and just fell in love with photography. And then my mother was taking me to some places. We went to Benares at one time, and we went to Kathmandu in Nepal, and went into these temples. And the temples, they had such an amazing feeling at them. And there's so many people that come to pilgrimage sites. They're the most visited places in the world. Right. And when you go to these temples, and there'll be thousands and thousands of people coming through them. And I didn't really understood what that meant at that point, being 12, 13, 14. But I was really enamored or enchanted with this collection of people who would come to the sites. And I really enjoyed taking pictures of the places. And so that's kind of how it began for me.
Now, there is something, I think there's 2 or 3 things going on at the same time, and we're going to visit all of these tonight. But I think that there are, when we talk about ley lines, I think that's maybe too loose of a term, and it's become, a pop culture way of talking about things. But there are sites around the world that have an energy or a power, and these sites were built there because of this. I don't think there's any question of that. But then there's the other part that I think is equally as important, where the ancients knew something. They knew something, and they were ahead of the curve. We've lost sight of it today, and we don't understand what they knew. And it's such a trippy concept for us today because of technology and jobs and life and cars and family and mortgages, right? Where we don't get the concept of the power of some of these sacred things and the power of the mind and consciousness that the ancients had it. Are we ever going to get it back, and how did we lose it?
Well, I think a really important thing to say, first of all, is you use the word the ancients knew something, and I feel, first of all, they felt something.
Right.
They felt something, and out of that feeling came an understanding, and then we could say they began to know something.
Right.
And there's a lot of people nowadays that are feeling something, and so they're knowing that also. And are we going to regain that? I think there's a whole lot of people that already understand this, and it's proliferating around human culture, that more and more people are understanding the power of these power places and what it means.
Do you think you could take, I think I could, but do you think you could take the most gentrified person that you know, right? That has absolutely the closedest of the closed minds, right?
Okay.
And take them to one of these sacred sites and open them up. You know what I mean? That there is something else going on out there. Do you think that is possible?
Yes, well, I guess I'd answer that in a few different ways. I'd first of all say that there's a consciousness inside of people, and even if they're not aware of that consciousness, the consciousness has the capacity to feel. So even if you took to one of these people to these places, one of these gentrified, unaware people, unawakened people, some part of them, their deeper consciousness, is going to feel this, and it's going to be recorded in them. Maybe they will awaken, maybe they will have an understanding then, and it might be that it's going to pop into their awareness weeks or months or years later, but some part of them is going to feel that. For example, if someone doesn't understand about thermal dynamics and it's really hot outside and you take them into an air-conditioned room, even though they can't intellectually explain it, they're still going to feel the coolness. And in the same way, even though someone can't explain why there's a power at a place, when they go into one of these places, some part of them will feel that.
Well, tell me about the first time. Privately, I'll tell you about mine, okay? But you're the guest on the show. So tell me about that first time where the front part of your brain just went pew, and you saw colors and you went there and you realized at that point that there is something else about this planet.
Well, I guess in one sense I'd say that my dad was one of the squadron commanders of a place called Holloman Air Force Base in Alamogordo, New Mexico. And Holloman Air Force Base is in control of most of this place called White Sands.
Right.
And White Sands, you know, they set off an atom bomb there, the first atom bomb at Trinity site. But long before they did that, this was a Vision Quest site for a large area of what we now call the southwestern United States. And because of my dad's capacity in the Air Force, I was able to go to certain parts of this that you can't even go to now, though it's a national park. And I went there and I felt something, but I didn't know what I felt. I didn't know how to put it into words. I felt it's lovely, but I felt something beyond loveliness, but I didn't know how to really say what it was, but I was enamored with the place. I think the first place that it became really conscious to me is I was in Kathmandu, Nepal with my mother, and we'd gone to this place called Swayambhunath Stupa. It was originally a Hindu temple taken over by the Buddhists, and there's this big, beautiful stupa on the top of this hill, and I'd gone there with my mother during the day, and then my mother went to sleep at night in this hotel, and I went back there in the middle of the night and climbed up to the top of this hill. There's 365 stairs, and I went up on the top of this stupa, and I had this really extraordinary experience while I was up there, and at that point, I felt this notion came into my mind, and now I understand it's something different than just my own notion. But this notion came into my mind that I'd like to one day make a photographic atlas of sacred sites in India and Nepal. And that was the first time I really became cognizant of something going on inside of me, where I felt a resonance with these places and felt to do something with them and do something for them. So I think I was 12 years old and 8 months at that point.
Now, and the whole gentrified, unawakened person, you almost became that in a way, coming back and going to college, and the life is now in front of you at that age. We've all gone through it, and I totally get that. And you could have gone in one direction. You went back. How strong was that calling?
Well, when I came, we lived in India for 4 years, and then I came back, and I had when I was in India, I got in some trouble for some things. And so I was actually sent to a reform school back in the United States, and I went to a military school at Roswell, New Mexico. And while I was there, I felt this yearning to go back to India, but it was immature. I didn't really know what was going on for me. But then I started the University of Arizona to study Mesoamerican archaeology, and about 5 weeks into that, I became affiliated with this one Indian guru, and so I went back to India. And some in India, some in the United States, and some in Europe. I was for 10 years in this ashram. And that whole time, there was this development of what is called bhakti, or bhakti yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. And I was really strongly touched by that, to such a degree that in a certain sense my life could go in no other direction besides what I've done, because I yearned for some way to say thank you to life, to say thank you to God, to say thank you to Spirit. I yearned in some way to make my life, as I used to say, a paintbrush in the hands of God, be a Playtex living glove on the hand of God. I wanted to do something because I recognized, even though it was sort of immature at this point, but I recognized things weren't going so well on this planet, and I wanted to do something in my own way that could assist in both the evolution of consciousness and the rectification of the problems on the earth. So in a certain sense, I couldn't have become gentrified. I was so strongly drawn by this thing. Actually, before I ever went to India, I felt this yearning, but it was immature and I didn't know how to put words on it. But there was some part of me that wanted to do something different, that wanted to do something magnificent and amazing. And so this particular path was opened up to me.
Now, you just mentioned the military school in Roswell. That's the big academy that's right in the middle of town that takes up all that acreage?
Yeah, New Mexico Military Institute.
That's it. Yeah, I drove by it every day, and I just looked at how many students. That place is huge.
Well, when I was there were a couple of thousand, because it was 3 years in high school and 2 years in junior college. Now there's, I think, even more, and they've opened it up to women at this point. It's an ROTC school.
Yeah, when you drive by it, if you're not expecting it, like I wasn't, right? I was like, what is that? Because it is a huge academy, no doubt. That's incredible. That's where you went, because we were just there last year, and we had tons of questions about it.
At that time, now a lot of people talk about because of UFO sightings in Roswell, but when I was going there, I knew nothing about that. I was just there to go to the school.
Hey, you know what? Let me ask you about that. What year were you attending there?
I think it was 69 to 72.
Bingo. And Roswell wasn't exposed until 1980. So what you're suggesting here, when you were in Roswell, and you were there for a length of time, no mention of UFOs.
No mention of UFOs in relationship to Roswell.
Right.
But I was certainly, I heard about UFOs, but
right.
not in relationship to Roswell itself.
Yeah, because now when you go to Roswell, every Burger King, McDonald's, hotel, and car dealership has got an alien statue in front.
And there's actually even some sort of museum there about it, I think, now.
Yeah, we spoke there last year. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is very, very interesting. We'll talk about that maybe off air. That's a very interesting take on things, considering what has happened to Roswell since.
And it's something we can talk about here, or we can talk about it at a different time. But there is a significant amount of contact and communication in my life with ET presence. that had a significant influence on my starting on these journeys to these sacred sites.
How so?
Oh boy, that I have to get into the story, but when I was 6 years old, I began having my first visionary experiences, which I came to understand was information was telepathically placed into my mind. And I saw these pictures of something that I would be doing when I was an older man.
Right.
And then I had a series of these sort of visitations or visionary visions over many, many years of my life. And then when I'd moved out of the ashram and I started these travel companies, and I was living in Coconut Grove, Florida, and I was making a lot of money, and I had a beautiful girlfriend, and everything was fine, but there was sort of an emptiness in my heart because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do, but I didn't actually know what I wanted to do. I just knew it wasn't running a bunch of travel companies. And one evening, I had this vision. I'd been in my apartment. I just had this meeting with my business partner. It had gone quite late. I'd gone back to my apartment, and I was standing on the porch in my apartment, and there was this prayer in my heart that I wanted to do something of service, but again, I didn't know what it was. And I shut my eyes, and I began to see this picture in my head. I was rather astonished by this, and I opened my eyes, and then I could see the Coconut Grove where I lived. It was dark, and I could see other apartment buildings, and I shut my eyes again, and I saw this picture of Easter Island, and I heard this voice, and it said, "Go here, and you will begin to find the answers to your prayers." I was astonished with this.
Wow.
Next morning, I went into my office, and to make a long story short, there was a travel brochure that we'd been sent that morning, and it had that exact same photograph on the front of this brochure. So I went up to my own office, and I called the manager of Lon Chile Airlines, and I couldn't tell him that I'd seen a vision of Easter Island.
Right.
There had been an interview of my business partner and I several weeks before that because we were considered to be these travel entrepreneurs. And so he'd heard of me, and he said, "What can I do to help you?" And I said, "Well, our company, we send people down to the Caribbean and Mexico, and we're thinking of opening up our sort of business to other places in South America." He said, "Where would you like to go?" And I said, "Easter Island and Machu Picchu." He gave me a free ticket. So I went several weeks later to both Easter Island and Machu Picchu, and in both of those places, I had more visionary experiences, and in both times, they showed me a picture of a 5-story wooden pagoda in a place, I didn't know it at that point, at a place called Haguro-san in Japan. It didn't even say where it was, but I sensed this is Japanese temple architecture.
Sure.
And I heard these words, and it said, "Follow the pilgrimage routes of the ancient religions." Now, I had not thought either of those visions up. I had not thought those words. I was at this point an extremely skilled meditator, had been doing meditation for several hours a day for 15 years at this point, and I was very cognizant of what is my own mental thought process and what is something that is being telepathically seeded into me.
Right.
So it became very clear that something was being shown to me, and I wasn't told I had to do this. It was a suggestion that was offered to me of, you could go do this. And then that, in a sense, that really began the long pilgrimage.
Today's the anniversary of Machu Picchu being with Hiram Bingham.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so
him rediscovering it. Yeah, I saw that article in National Geographic.
And tell me, well, I don't know if I want to go to Machu Picchu first or Easter Island. Which one did you visit first?
Easter Island.
Okay. A game changer?
Oh, yeah, tremendous game changer. And there's a lot of mysteries about Easter Island that cannot be explained by contemporary archaeological paradigms. One of the most important ones is this matter of grids. Now, there's a lot of people I hear talking about grids, and they don't know what they're talking about. I think I probably know as much about grids as anybody on the planet, and I don't even understand the whole thing.
Right.
But Easter Island, according to one set of grid theories, the island is at one of these, let's say, grid power points. And so when I was there, some of these power places, I can get into this more later, but some of these power places, they're sort of transducer places. They're portals. The veil between realms is very, very thin there,
right.
And so one can experience something there, especially if one is open to it. One can experience something there that one wouldn't experience even a mile away or 10 miles away. And so when I was at Easter Island, again, I'm very immature, very new to this whole study that I'm now into, I experienced something, and I think some of it has to do with the fact that it was at that particular location. The people that came there lately, and there's a number of different theories about how people got there later, but I think the place had a enormous significance long before the Polynesians, however they discovered it, got there.
Right, right. And what's really bizarre, and I've done this, you can draw a line from Easter Island to Göbekli Tepe and then look at what falls on that line. Machu Picchu, the Giza Plateau, that line is full of sacred sites all the way across, and that is way beyond coincidence.
Yes.
And spans cultures too. That's the other thing. It's not one culture, it's a variety, and spans time too as well.
So the way I kind of explain that now, and I had a visionary experience at a monastery called Hilandari in Mount Athos, maybe in 1986, and I'd been inside of this church with all these Greek Orthodox monks chanting, and then I was a little tired of that, and my knees were hurting from standing up for hours, and so I went out into the courtyard of this 10th century monastery, and I was just meditating, and I began to have another one of these visionary experiences, and you've certainly heard of dodecahedrons and icosahedrons and tetrahedrons,
right.
These platonic solids. Well, I began to see all of these platonic solids together, comprising one great crystalline structure, and that crystalline structure was inside of the sphere of the earth, and where the vertex points of each one of those platonic solids hit the interior sphere of the earth determined where there was a power place on the earth. And then on the surface of the earth, there were straight lines going between these, and then there were logarithmic spirals coming out of each one of those major points, going in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction according to a golden mean 1.618, and when where these lines crossed the straight lines determined where there were other power places on the surface of the earth. So again, I didn't really understand what this meant at that point, and I still don't entirely understand it, but I saw, there's this incredible energy structure inside the planet that is, I liken it to the planetary acupuncture points being sort of like acupuncture points on the body. And human beings found some of these in antiquity. 72% of the surface of the earth is underwater. And so the 28% that is on land, some of it is uninhabitable. It's in the high mountains. People never went there. But people found some of these power places, and some of them, not all, some of them they used as sacred sites.
Now, we're gonna hit a break here in 2 minutes. Let me ask you this. I don't want to sound immature, but what is your favorite sacred site?
I get asked that a lot, and maybe 20 years ago I had one I really liked in Japan called Miyajima, an island. But now I've been to about 1,000 of these sites in 159 countries, and I don't have a favorite one. There's a number of different types of sites, and we can get an indication of type of site by the metaphors that are encoded in the deities of the different religions, but I don't have a specific site that is my favorite one. There's a bunch I like. There's none that I don't like, but different people resonate with different types of sites for different reasons at different times in their lives. I'm just sort of the photo archivist of all of them. I love them all. There are some I really like, but there's no favorite one.
Have you been to Göbekli Tepe yet?
No, and that's a sad thing. I was in Sanliurfa, which is very nearby, I don't know, 20 years ago, but it hadn't been discovered yet. And I was talking to my friend Graham Hancock and Andrew Collins a few months ago, and they said, well, you're not going to be so happy when you get there because they built an awning over it now, and it doesn't look like it used to look. But that's all right because I could do, some detail photography on some of the stones. But no, I have not been to Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, I think they built the awning, man, because of satellites. I don't want to be too conspiratorial on this.
Well, that might be one reason. One of the other things they're doing is they're just trying to protect the very delicate bas-relief carvings on some of the stones that were, had been covered up.
Yeah, and that's a good excuse.
And archaeologists, they do that type of stuff. They get a grant and they try to put everything in a box. That's just the nature of Orthodox archaeologists. They do that.
And you've been, what caught my eye. We're gonna jump to a break here in 30 seconds. But as you know, you were part of Ken Klein's extraordinary video video series on Giza and the Great Pyramid. And your enthusiasm there was absolutely extraordinary. But you were quite a bit ahead of the curve, too, as well. And I want to talk a little bit about Giza, but I want to take a dance around the world with all of these sacred sites and take a look at your photography, too, as well. So let's do that. Let's do that right after the break. Let's do that right now. Our guest tonight, the one and only Martin Gray. Martin, I'm serious. I'm so glad we had the ability to chase you down. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. More with Martin right after this short break. You stay with us.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Hello, I'm Katie and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. Yes. We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And I'm Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. And you're listening to Jimmy Church. The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tappy.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Martin Gray. He is a photographer of sacred architecture, art, and pilgrimage sites around the world. We're discussing all of that tonight. He's a real pilgrim. His photography is amazing. If you go to Nat Geo, go to National Geographic and search Martin Gray. He's got Martin. You've got like over 700 photographs posted there. It's an incredible tour of the world.
Yep. It's been fun to do it.
Man, we all see photography all the time, but you have a way of capturing an image. Can you just tell me what is it? What is it how do you do it?
Well, people a lot of times, National Geographic, other people, they say I'm a great photographer, and I go, no, I'm actually a mediocre photographer photographing great art. I didn't build the Great Pyramids or Stonehenge. I just took the time to find the right place to stand in at the right time of the day, and I pressed the button on a little black box called the camera. I do, however, a certain sort of way of looking at things. And basically, I tell people a lot of times, it takes 10 seconds to take a good photograph. You just have to slow down. I watch people taking pictures nowadays with their phones, and they click, 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 click. And I say take 10 seconds and, pan and tilt and compose the image, and it's going to look better. So there's that. And also there is a desire in me. And a lot of times when I'm making these photographs, I don't any longer really consider them photographs. I consider them windows through which the visual homeopathic essence of the sites comes to the viewer. And I have a spiritual relationship with these sites. And so a lot of times when I'm making the photograph, I'm making a prayer to the spirit of the place, and I'm saying, please help me construct this image in such a way so that someone looking at it later, I might be taking a picture of the Great Pyramid, for example, and in 20 years later, and somebody in Cincinnati is going to be looking at it, but by looking at it as a window, they are in a sense there. So that there's a relationship between me and the sites that helps to create this photograph so that someone looking at it later isn't really looking at a photograph. They're looking through a window at the place.
Yeah, there's one image that really moved me, and it was of a temple in India. The temple is out in the water, right? What is?
Oh, the Golden Temple, maybe.
Wow!
Yeah,
what
that's a nice
shot!
One.
Yeah, man. Okay. All right, now let's
see. Now that's an interesting picture because that is the first place I'm looking at it right now. That is the first place I ever traveled on my own. My mother felt that I'm sufficiently trained in travel, and so I went to Old Delhi and I got on a train in Old Delhi, and I took the train by myself to Amritsar, which means pool of ambrosial nectar. That's very important. Names of the places are always very important. The name a lot of times will give you a metaphoric indication of the power of place. The place is also called Hadi Mandir, which in Sanskrit means temple of God. So there's this pool of ambrosial nectar at the temple of God, and I was there my first time. I think I was 13 years old and 2 months when I was first there and took that a number of pictures. The one you see on the website is one that I took about 20 years ago when I was back there. People say, okay, what are your favorite places? Well, in a sense, if there's 10, this could be one of them. I love that place very, very, very dearly.
It's that picture. How did you? It almost obviously you're either in a tall building or a helicopter. How did you? How do you pull this off?
Well, first of all, I went. It's helpful if you're a photographer, a National Geographic photographer, because it opens up some doors. So I went and I met with the administrator of the site. I told him what I did, and then it was rather surprising. He gave me a key and he said, "This is going to open up a number of doors around this building." And so then on the where I'm standing, I found this room. And I could see out this certain window of the temple, but I wanted to be up higher. So I climbed out of this window, and it got kind of dangerous. And then I got up on top of this roof, and then I took that picture. And it was such a lovely location. For 3 days in a row, in the afternoon, I'd go back to the same place, even after I got the picture. And I'd just sit there for a few hours in the afternoon as the sun was setting, illuminating that golden temple.
It's incredible that there is something on planet Earth that looks like this.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've got this one series of pictures that I call my golden series, and I've just got 5 really great images, all of buildings that are golden. They're really gorgeous together.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Absolutely. Now, let's jump back to Giza for a second. One of the One of my concerns is that everything didn't start at 3000 BC, whether it was Mesopotamia or Egypt or however Orthodox academia is going to try to present that picture to us. Things are much older than we are being told. And when you walk around Giza with your evidence and the things that you have seen there, why is it that the man just will not listen to people like you and the alternative ways of looking at things and maybe try to apply science to our own history? Why did they close that down to us?
Gosh, an answer doesn't come quickly to mind to say that. But what I will say about the Giza Plateau, there's sort of two types of structures there. There's the stuff that was built by the dynastic Egyptians. And then you have the Sphinx Temple, the Valley Temple, and then you have the Great Pyramid. My feeling, and Robert Schoch and Robert Boval were both here in Sedona just recently, and they were talking about the age of the Sphinx. Some people, because of erosion studies, will say that the Sphinx is at least 7,000 years old. Pre-dynastic Egypt around 3000 BC, as you said. But the Sphinx, some people say because the orientation of it and where it was focused on, where it was pointed to, indicates that it's possibly 10,500 BC or earlier. I happen to agree with that. And then there's the Great Pyramid, as contrasting to the other pyramids. The other pyramids were probably, I'm not sure, but it seems like the other pyramids were probably built by dynastic Egyptians. My feeling is the dynastic Egyptians came there at a certain time and they saw the Great Pyramid and they attempted to copy it at Saqqara and Memphis and some others, and then they got their technology down and they could make other pyramids. But the Great Pyramid itself, we couldn't build it nowadays. We don't really know how it was built. Whether it was built with extraterrestrial influence or not is a very interesting and a contentious subject. But the Great Pyramid itself, in my opinion, it's at least 12,000 BC.
It doesn't match everything else, and that's, it just doesn't. Talk about contrast. When you see Khufu's, his wife and his mom, and you see the three pyramid, the small ones that are next to the three big ones, those are piles of rubble, right? I mean, they're piles that, if anything, those should have been built quite easily and quite handsome and perfect, right? They're smaller. It's an easier thing to do. And if you have the same engineers and architects and everybody is there, but yet they are just literally piles of inconsistent rock. It's not even consistent the way that they were built.
There's a really good essay on my website on sacredsites.com under the Africa, then you go to Egypt, and then on the right side of the page you'll see, Great Pyramid. And I've got a 7 or 8 page essay just on the Great Pyramid. If people are interested in that, they should read that. There's a whole lot of information in that I'm not going to try to talk about now. But maybe you've heard of John Anthony West. Oh, yeah. He's one of the top guys on Egypt. And I gave the essay to John West, and he said one time, that's the best short essay written on the Great Pyramid.
You mentioned, Schoch and Boval and Hancock. I had all of them right before they went to Sedona. They were all on a panel with me over at Contact in the Desert. Oh,
okay, yeah.
And John Anthony West, he's got his battle with cancer right now, and he couldn't make it. Yeah. And we missed him. But what I did do is I went down the panelists and I said, okay, you guys, what's the most important megalithic site right now? Where should we be? And it was overwhelmingly Göbekli Tepe. But the conversation always goes back to the Great Pyramid, the ages of it, and who built it. If it wasn't dynastic Egypt, then what was it that was predating everything, and who could have built it and left it over as a hand-me-down, a second-hand monument to the pharaohs? What do you think happened there? Who do you think? What was the culture that could have built the Great Pyramid?
Oh boy! Then I go out on a limb, and I got to start talking about, pre-cataclysms and crustal displacement and one of my favorite subjects in the last 25 years is paleoclimatology and paleomythology and paleoanthropology and what was going on this planet from basically 20,000 BC to 5,000 BC.
That's right.
And there's some extraordinary stuff. A lot of people will talk about Atlantis and Lemuria, and I can talk about that stuff. Graham and I have real detailed discussions about that. I can talk about that for hours. I think there had to be some people on this planet that were highly sophisticated mathematically and engineering-wise before 10,000 BC, and they left a lot of structures. And then why did those structures disappear? Well, right now, Graham and Robert Schoch are having a little bit of an argument because there's something that maybe happened in 9,600 BC, 10,500 BC, and Graham says, okay, there's a large cometary object that hit the northern ice cap, and Schoch says there's something that happened to sunspot activity on the sun. Whatever was the cause of this, and I think both of them have valid points when talking about it, but whatever was the cause of this thing, I think what we do is we had some crustal displacement. We had the melting of the ice cap, not ice caps, the ice cap, the raising of the waters. We had just tremendous cataclysms on the planet back then, and it obliterated or hid lots of the evidences of really, really ancient civilizations. That's one of the things I think Graham has been really magnificent doing with his first book, The Fingerprints of the Gods, and his most recent book, The Magicians of the Gods, is bringing more archaeological evidence to this, more archaeological notice of this stuff that the archaeologists, they just cannot explain. You've heard of Michael Cremo in his book Forbidden Archaeology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. He finds all this stuff in museums. Why is it down in the basement? The reason it's down in the basement is because we have plenty of stuff that we can date, that we can explain, and the stuff that we can't, they keep it in boxes in the basement. But there's lots and lots of stuff that the contemporary archaeological paradigm cannot explain. And I think that is critically important that we start paying more attention to that.
And when we look at we always go back to Egyptologists, right? But when we look at the archaeologists and the historians out there that want to simplify things, and their answer to all of this is you're not giving credit enough to Stone Age man. You're not giving enough credit. They really knew what they were doing. And that is their answer. They don't want to back it up with science or research. They want to simplify things and try to dumb it down. And I guess it's in hopes that people like you or myself are going to eventually just say, yeah, okay. Why? I don't understand that mentality.
Well, they're in a box. You go to a university, you get your degree in classical archaeology, and you're told to certain things, and then you want to get tenure, and then you want to write your papers, and so you're just kept in a box. And, you look at megalithic stuff in Europe, and, 4,000 BC to 2,000 BC, but you look at Göbekli Tepe, even National Geographic says it's at least 9,000 BC.
Right.
So it's far earlier. Megalith means large stone. Göbekli Tepe and the Great Pyramid are far older than classical megalithic civilization in Europe. And the archaeology doesn't have a box to put it in. So it's people like you and I and Graham and Robert Schoch and those people. We're creating a new box. We're bringing people's attention to something that cannot be explained by contemporary archaeological paradigm. And I feel things are changing. They really are changing.
And do you think that it will shift, though, to the point where, like Khufu and the fact that there was a forgery in the upper chambers? There's no doubt about that. And there's a really good book out now by Scott Creighton. I don't know if you've read it, but The Great Pyramid Hoax, where he breaks down everything pretty. I think it's pretty solid. I think the evidence is there that it was a forgery and that him and his assistants did that. But you would have to go back and every history book on the planet is going to have to get updated and reprinted.
Yeah,
that's a big
true.
step. Yeah, I mean, literally, it would rewrite history.
Yep.
The other thing that I wanted to touch upon is where the Great Pyramid lies. We were talking about ley lines earlier, right? And power points, and we have that in Easter Island. We certainly have that in Machu Picchu too, as well. That point, that technology of placing that pyramid where it is, goes beyond any common sense of math or anything that
Yes.
they as allegedly knew. How do you think that they chose that point and why?
I think it's for me, I'm going out on a limb here, but I think again it's going to have something to do with primary energy points on the planet. And then you could say, well, what are those primary energy points for? How are they used? And I think in my work, I also talk about this thing called planetary acupuncture, that the energy at these places goes both ways. There's a celestial energy that comes in at these sites, and there's a terrestrial energy that goes out at these sites. And in certain structures can be built at these sites that gather, concentrate, and radiate those energies. And so when you get a place of a particular geophysical site that has these energies, and then you build a structure like the Great Pyramid at it, it's hugely powerful. Hugely powerful. And the geometry, I oftentimes say to people, if you look at a guitar or a flute, what they are is it's just created with mathematics. Well, the Great Pyramid is created with mathematics, so it's in a sense a huge resonating chamber. And so when people go inside of that thing that is mistakenly called a king's chamber, there was never a king in it, it's just the larger chamber, and the coffer in it is not now in the orientation or position it used to be. But when people went into that coffer, specifically at certain times of the year, and there was these two energies coming together, these terrestrial and the celestial energies, it would have tremendous effects upon people when they were in that chamber or in that coffer. And I think that's one of the primary reasons that structure was built.
I want to talk some logistics here for a second. Even you look at the coffer, that's only 5 feet on the inside. And now you would have all of the other coffins, right? They're like Russian dolls. That means the pharaoh, even, let's say we accept what they say, that it was a tomb for Khufu. So you're telling me that he was a 3.5 foot tall pharaoh, right?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I agree completely.
It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I wanted to ask you this, going back to Easter Island really quick. When you're looking at those statues, which and the one that's still in the quarry is 250 tons, some crazy number. How are those getting moved around?
I think that's pretty well explained at this point, because when people got there, whether it's the 7th, 8th, 10th, 11th century, it was completely covered in trees, a certain type of palm tree. Mm-hmm. Now, it is theorized that the people that came over there were rats on the boats, and they're on their rafts, and the rats got into the island and they started eating the roots of the trees. But the people were also cutting down the trees, these large palm trees, for two reasons. One, to make boats so they could go fish off the coast, because the fish are not really plentiful right on the coast. You got to go a few miles out to sea. And they were also cutting to make rollers, and then they put these big stones, the moai, and on the rollers, and they could roll them across the island. This is what is theorized. Yeah. I don't think it's that difficult to mute. Now, that big one, there's that huge one that is still not completely excavated, not completely free carved, but I don't think it would be that difficult. And I've seen engineering studies about if you get one of the heavy ones and you have enough rollers there, then they're not that difficult to move.
You really think that that's how they did it? You think they did it with rollers?
I think that is a possible explanation. Now, we could look and you could say, well, we don't really have evidence, firm archaeological evidence of when they were carved. Let's say, and you can look at the erosion on them and go, oh, okay, and the lichenology studies, and some scientists will go, well, they're really not that old. But let's say they are older, far older. I think there are a lot of mysterious movement of stones around the planet that couldn't be rolled on wooden rollers. I think they're possibly, just like that place in Florida called Coral Castle.
Right.
There's a number of places on the planet that they're Baalbek in Lebanon. How did they move these huge stones? Well, you get these legends sometimes that people move stones by sound. So different tones create anti-gravitational waves. Now, I know a lot of scientists would go, that's impossible. And I'd go, well, just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean it's impossible.
Well, that's exactly the point, isn't it? And when we look at not only Baalbek, but you have Machu Picchu. And getting stones to the top of that mountain is something that defies explanation. We can always go back to the evidence of the Great Pyramid and look at Cusco and some of the other sites in Bolivia. And the same issues are found all around the world. It's not just in Lebanon, right? It's just not. It's all around. How did they possibly move these? And the other point that I think needs to be driven home, you've been to these sites. I have not been to Machu Picchu. I've not been to Baalbek, and I haven't been to Giza. But this stuff was before steel. It's before steel. I do not know how you are quarrying granite, red granite, with rocks and twigs and chicken bones. I don't see how that happens.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because a guy named Christopher Dunn has done some engineering studies. There are numerous places at Tiwanaku, and there are numerous places in Egypt where you can see evidence of circular drills, saw blades, and of really, really finely drilled holes that we can only do them now with diamond-tipped saws and diamond-tipped drills. But we don't have any evidence of them having that back then, but we can look at the evidence and go, well, it couldn't have been made any other way. Even though we don't have any metal or diamond-tipped saws that they might have used, we can see the circular cutting marks. We know they had to be cut by some sort of saw.
Yeah.
We just don't know what it was.
It couldn't have been copper. I mean, that's the...
No, it couldn't have been copper, couldn't have been bronze. They're not hard enough.
No, never. But
then, you get this other mysterious thing with Ollantaytambo and in Machu Picchu pre-Inca. Inca are really not that sophisticated, by the way. But you get these legends, and how do you explain this? That by using certain herbs together, mixing these herbs and now the scientists, if they heard this, they're going to go, this is impossible. But again, just because you don't know how to do it doesn't mean it's not possible.
Right.
By putting certain herbs together and putting it on a stone, it makes the stone temporarily like putty, and so you can move it. You can bend it.
That would explain a lot of the irregular shapes. We have to try to digest this, because when you look at some of those walls in Peru, I mean, you go to Cusco and you're just like, wait a minute here. And you look at the Spanish version, right? And you look at the ancient version on the same wall. And the Spanish version is supposed to be more sophisticated, or you know what I mean, more technically advanced, and quite simply, it's not. And so, how did they make this stuff malleable? How did that happen? And we don't know. We honestly don't know today. And the movement of that. Now, let's talk about Peru a little bit here. The movement of stuff in Baalbek, boggles the mind. Of course, Egypt and so forth. But those stones are huge in Peru that came from 20, 30, 40 miles away over some pretty mountainous regions, not a flat desert. You can kind of digest the flat desert and try to work your way through that.
We have no idea how they moved the stones up into Ollantaytambo. We have no idea. And if I talk to archaeologists, and I'll say, okay, here, explain this to me, they can't.
And this is the other thing. You've been to these sites. You've been to over 150 countries. There is a consistency in the megalithic structures that are there when you have these irregular stones or these mirror images of irregular stones, too, on opposite walls. But it's going on in Machu Picchu, and it's going on in temples in Egypt. But yet the Incas, we're talking about thousands of years apart from the Egyptians. So how, if they were not communicating, I doubt any of the Incans were hanging out over in Giza.
Well, first of all, we got to talk about the Inca. The Inca didn't even last 100 years as an empire.
Did not.
No. And the Inca came and they found something that was already there. And this is a pattern that you see a lot, that you'll have a civilization or a culture at a sacred site, and then they get taken over by another culture, and then they usually use the same power places, use the same sacred sites. They'll break down the stones like the medieval Christians. They came in and they found this whole megalithic culture, and they tore up the stones, broke them up, made churches of them, put them in the middle of where the stone ring was, oriented them to the same astronomical orientation that the stone ring was before them. Same thing the Inca did. They found at Machu Picchu, at Ollantaytambo, at Pisac, at a bunch of these other sites, they found stuff, and it was already constructed architecture, and so they just built on top of it. That's really, really important to understand. The Inca are not old, and the Inca were actually a very bloody people. They sacrificed thousands of their own children a year, and a guy, if you haven't interviewed him yet, called William Sullivan, who wrote a book called The Secret of the Inca, Myth, Astronomy, and the War Against Time. And he explains in that book why you find blood sacrifice in all pre-Columbian Mesoamerican cultures. It's really a really fascinating thing. But the Inca came later. They're not old. And so if we go back to Tiwanaku, which is very, very old, and a guy named Arthur Poznansky, who's done a whole lot of archaeoastronomy studies of Tiwanaku, the architectural layout of the site absolutely points to it being utilized, crafted, constructed, and utilized before 10,500 BC.
Yep, 15,000 years old.
Yeah.
And I actually, we're going to take a break right here, but I mentioned one time to Michio Kaku, right? I bring up all of that stuff in Bolivia, and he goes, impossible. I go, what? And he goes, no, man, before Ice Age. No. He was like, move on. Next
That's
question.
Sad because he's kind of a turned-on guy.
That's right. More with Martin Gray right after this short break. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? If you're forgetful, nervous, moody, or overwhelmed, chances are you're not protecting yourself from the ravaging effects of stress and anxiety. No matter the cause, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, your quality of life, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in as little as 1 to 2 weeks and increase your ability to recall facts, names, and numbers in 4 to 12 weeks. Calm and Clever was created by scientist Kurt Hendricks, a principal investigator in 2 NIH-funded studies on Alzheimer's disease. Try Calm and Clever for 2 months. You'll feel the difference. Call 1-800-758-8746 or go to calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Our guest tonight, Martin Gray. He is a photographer of sacred architecture, art, and pilgrimage sites around the world. I'm looking at a bunch of his photographs here. We're going to start to post some of these up. And what I wanted to, I just went through, Martin, and you meditate. I just went through a pretty strange experience, a first time for me, actually, where we had a moment in a sacred circle, a medicine wheel, up in Washington, and this was a couple of weeks ago, and it was with sound bowls, and I went there. Okay, and now you're just going to laugh. Okay, Jimmy, yeah, I get it, but for me, it was
I do get it, and I'm not laughing.
Right. And I came out of that, and I didn't recognize my surroundings. I didn't know the people I was with, like my wife, right? I didn't recognize. It was an extraordinary thing to go through. And when you go to these sacred sites around the world, is there a meditation that you would suggest to our audience and maybe dumb it? Is there a basic, meditation 101 for someone to do?
Yeah, I can talk about that from a long time meditating experience. I guess I'm 63 and I've been meditating since I was 18, so 45 years of daily practice. And the meditation, it's basically, it's very, very simple. Meditation is all about becoming present. And so in Theravada or Hinayana Buddhism, there's a very simple meditation technique called Vipassana, where what you're doing is you utilize, there's walking and there's sitting meditations, and people, while they're sitting, they're focusing on their breath, the inhalation, the exhalation, or the sensation at the nose, or they walk really slowly and they focus on one particular part of the footstep. And what this is doing is it's training you to concentrate, and it's quieting the mind. This is very, very valuable. At the sacred sites, if one does that, that's a great idea. The best thing to do is just be, however. Just go and be there. You don't really have to do anything. It's like I tell people in America are familiar with this celestial seasoning red zinger tea, and I say when the water is hot and you put the tea bag in it, you don't have to tell it to steep in. It just happens. The tea steeps into the water. And when we go to these sacred sites, we don't have to do anything. And a lot of times the doing of anything gets in the way. It puts something between us and the spirit. If you were to ask the spirit, well, what do you want people to do when they're at this place? It's nice. Do some ceremony. If it makes you feel good, that's fun. That's nice. It expresses your intention. But the most important thing is just be. If you can take a nap, that's great. I take naps in many of these sacred sites because then the conscious mind is turned off and you're more open to both the power of the place, the quality of the place. You get that. You're not in, the mind isn't in the way. So just breathe slowly, but you don't even have to do that if you want to do that, but just go and be there. That's the important thing. That's really important. People get that. I was given, and this is a fascinating story. I was at a sacred mountain. There's 4 sacred mountains in the Southwest that are sacred to the Hopi, the Navajo, and some other people. There's a number of different sacred mountains, but there's this one set of these 4. And there's one called Dibenitsa, which is a place called Mount Hesperus in southwestern Colorado. And it's 13,325 feet. And I'd climbed it one year. Then I went back a second year. And a few years later, I came back and I climbed it then. And on this time, I had this wonderful experience. It takes 50 sentences to tell it. But where I received this breathing technique, which is basically there's still the exhalation and the inhalation, but during them, on the first inhalation, as you're breathing in, you just imagine or make way for a celestial energy to come in through your crown chakra, top of your head, comes into your heart. You add your own heart energy to it. On the exhalation, it's as an expression of gratitude out your root chakra into the earth. The second breath, the energy goes the other way. It comes terrestrial energy in through your root chakra into your heart. You add your heart energy to it, and the exhalation, it's an expression of gratitude to the celestial realm. And on the third breath, the 2 energies come together at the same time. They meet in your heart, and then they go out in every direction in a spherical order. And then you do the first breath again. So you do breath 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And each time on the third breath, there's this pulse of this love energy that you've added to the celestial and the terrestrial energy. I didn't make this up. I'm just on this sacred mountain, and this thing comes to me. And it was said to me, teach this to people. And you, Martin, every time you go to these sacred sites, go through 4 cycles of these 3 breaths. So I do that. And then I just do it a lot of time anyway. I just do it a lot. So if people want to go to these sites, just be. If you don't want to do this not complicated meditation I just said, you don't even have to do that. Just slow your breathing down just a little bit. Watch your breathing. Just do something to turn off your head and just be there. Just be there. That's all you got to do. Just be there. It's just enough just to be there.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. I didn't know what I was doing, right? And it just happened.
Beginner's mind.
Ooh,
you know that
man.
Zen term? Zen term?
Absolutely.
Beginner's mind. That's the best.
Oh, man. And after it was done, or after I came out of it and I opened my eye, I tried to go back. Right? I was like, I don't even want to be here. Closed my eyes and I bent back over and put my hands on my knees. I was just like, it was overwhelming. I was like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? Clicking my heels and trying to go back. It was incredible. Now, I want to go through some of these photographs. They're all incredible. We're going to get these up in Twitter. I want to start with Avebury.
Avebury.
Because everybody knows Stonehenge, but Avebury is absolutely remarkable. This photograph of yours is breathtaking.
The one from the airplane or the one on the ground?
The one on the ground.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, incredible photograph. What's so special for you with Avebury?
Well, one of the things I do is, again, I got sort of directed. It was never, you have to do this. It was this suggestion. And when I got this suggestion, at the end of this 6 months, I was in Japan on my bicycle going to all these sacred mountains without really knowing what it meant at that point. I was just at the beginning, and my business partner was wanting me to come back to Miami and start working at the company again. I didn't want to do it. And I'm at this one really important Shinto festival, and the next day after the festival, I'm up on the hill overlooking the temple as people are coming back in, and I'm thinking, I'm going back to Miami in a week. I'm not so happy. I shut my eyes to meditate, and again, I have one of these visions. And this time, it's indicated to me that if I wanted to, I could go to these sacred sites, these power places all over the planet. And I thought, that's great. That sounds really fun. It's more fun to ride a bicycle around the earth than to work in an air-conditioned office in Miami, Florida.
No doubt.
So I just continued. I just continued to do that. Avebury.
Okay.
So I go to all of these different places. And I do 2 things. I have my own experience there, and I do this planetary acupuncture thing, but I also gather the photographs or the windows of these places and write these very concise. Google loves me. You put a lot of the names of these sacred sites into Google search, Google Images too, and I dominate Google Images for sacred sites. But you put in Mecca, the main place, main Islamic sacred site. You put that into Google Images. I'm going to be in the top 5 pictures for sure. And Google, just regular Google, I'll be in there, and on the first page. So I gather all this information for people. I give it all for free. The website is completely for free. It's so easy to access for people. And in certain places are super important. And if you said in a sense of stone rings, we don't really call them stone circles because 98% of them are rings, different types of ellipses, focused on different celestial bodies. Stonehenge is a true circle. Stonehenge in certain senses is not that significant, not nearly as significant as Avebury, 70 miles north. Avebury is the most important stone circle. There's 3 circles. There's stone ring and the whole megalithic area of all of, Ireland, Scotland, England, Spain, Portugal, France, all of those. Avebury is so important. Oh gosh, and the stories I have about Avebury, I can talk about Avebury for 30 minutes alone.
It's incredible. And this photo, what's most incredible about this Avebury shot? It's not the stone circle, my friend. It's who lives in that house right in the background. How would you like right?
What's so cool about that? That's cool that you brought that up. I'm opening that picture. There was a guy, he doesn't live there anymore. He probably has passed away. He was a British, and he was an archaeologist. His name was Brian Ashley, and he lived there. And he was an Orthodox archaeologist. He was working for the National Trust, but he was kind of turned on. He was kind of open too. And when I told him what I was doing, because first of all, I photographed that photograph right there, and then I went over to that building because there's a little town in the middle of it, little town, number of buildings.
Yep.
And I went into the shop where he and his wife were, and we're talking, and they asked me what I'm doing. I tell them I got my bicycle right there. That you're riding around Europe for a year in 11 countries by bicycle, going to sacred sites, and they were amazed by that. I was amazed by that. So I stayed in their house. They let me have a room, and they called it Martin's Nest.
No.
Yeah, in that house right there. They named it Martin's Nest. I thought that's very cool. So Avebury and I know stones. Oh,
I know.
Gosh, the stones, they're very big. And those men just happened to be walking there. It was a nice shot the way that worked out.
A great shot. Now let's go to Benares really quick.
Mm-hmm.
The way that this image is, and this is being put up in Twitter here. Let me back up and make sure that we're still in sync here with Twitter. With Benares, this shot, it looks like you captured it as just a floating, like it's floating in the clouds.
I did a book for National Geographic a bunch of years ago called The Geography of Religion. And their chapter on Buddhism and Hinduism opened with my pictures, and the Hinduism chapter opened with that picture right there. I'm on a little boat on the Ganges River. I got there before the sun came up, and the sun has come up, and you can see it just touching the tops of those buildings.
Absolutely incredible. Incredible. Now,
I first went here. This is the very first. Okay, you're looking at that picture. That is the very first sacred site my mother took me to before Kathmandu, Nepal. We went to Jaipur and Agra. They're not sacred sites. Taj Mahal is not a sacred site. We went to Benares, and I went into this early Shiva temple there. I'm not going to go into. You said very quick. I can't go into why this is important as a Jyotirlinga, but I went into that temple with my mother in Benares when I was 12 years old, in that city right there.
Now, there's something else I wanted to touch upon really quick. Because I'm looking at
and your quickness.
I know, right?
4 hours.
I know. I'm looking at Chichen Itza, and the length of time that it took to build not only Mexico City, but Chichen, where it took 150 years to build these pyramids, and they're trying to say that the Giza. The Great Pyramid was built in 20 years, and yet these you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's completely ridiculous.
Completely. Now, I've got a friend of mine that just sent me a really cool drone shot of Chichen Itza. He was staying right down the street at a hotel. It's like a quarter mile away.
Yeah, and you can do that. It's cool now.
It's cool.
Part of me doesn't like it. Part of me does. Well, I could explain that. I'm okay. I just finally found the Chichen Itza site. Now I'm looking at it. Okay.
Okay. So he launches his drone from the front porch of his hotel. Rises it up, and it right above the trees, and then boom, there it is, and he flies the drone around it. But
look, I wish I had one of those drones when I started. I know I could get a good one now that's small, but that's not what I am as I have other people are doing drone photography at sacred sites. I'm the still photography guy, but I look at some of those pictures and it's like, oh, I wish I had one of those. That's so beautiful.
I know.
You can't see it that way. What's coming out with drone photography now at some of the sacred sites? Yikes! It's so beautiful.
It is, and to think that, see, this is the thing about his drone shot is you're looking at trees. And he, brings it up above the trees, and there's the pyramid right there. Mm-hmm. Now, you just mentioned something really quick. I don't want this to get away from me. You said certain sites are not sacred, right? And you just listed like 3 or 4.
Yeah. The Taj Mahal. A lot of times, monumental architecture. Taj Mahal was built as a burial, a mausoleum for Shah Jahan's wife. Yeah, I get that. It's not visited by the Indians as a sacred site. It's visited by them as the burial of a wife of a political guy. But wasn't built as. It was built with great Islam. Whenever Islam builds something big, they build it with so-called sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is just geometry. It's 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. It's just geometry. You can take the word sacred off because people I see that gets in the way for a lot of people. It goes sacred geometry. They think it's going to be different than geometry. There isn't any. It's just geometry. Islamic places. Some of them are built with great sacred geometry like the Taj Mahal. I don't want to even bother talking about the Taj Mahal, but it's not a pilgrimage site. It's not a sacred site.
And what makes something sacred?
Okay, that's a really good question. So it's dependent upon religion. And then there'll be the heretical and the orthodox in a religion. You look like in Islam. Islam's got the Shia and the Sunni, and they're both same Quran, pretty much the same Hadith. They're both, if done in certain ways, very, very strict. But then you got the Sufis, and you can have Shia Sufis or you can have Sunni Sufis, and other, the more strict, especially the men, they're gonna we don't like Sufis. Like the Wahhabists, the guys in Saudi Arabia, they're just completely against Sufism because you can't venerate a saint. But Sufism, like Konya, like Rumi, and it's on the website. Konya in Turkey is Rumi, the great poet. People know Rumi. He came there and he spent a lot of years as a teacher there. And then when he died, they buried him there. His cenotaph of Rumi is at Konya. My pictures of it are so beautiful, that one. And so people go there to be with Rumi. They came there when he was a teacher, and then they come there now he's a passed away sage. And so a lot of people going to a site, it imparts something to it. It's like light on photographic film for 1,000th of a second, and it remembers it. And magnetic tape on capstan rollers and an old style tape recorder, it passes over the roller and it hears you sing and it remembers it. So you get a big piece of earth, not just magnetic tape or photo emulsion. You get a big piece of earth, like a place like Taj Mahal, in a sense, is becoming that because people come and just people there with concentrated intention. But people don't go to the Taj Mahal to pray, but they went to Chichen Itza. They go to a lot of these sacred sites to pray. And here's what's key, Jimmy. Here's what's key about these places. When people go to them, irrespective of the religion, it doesn't matter whether Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity, old, new, it doesn't matter. People are doing two things. One of two things or both. They're saying please and thank you.
Interesting.
Please and thank you. There's prayer and praise. That's what's going on here. Doesn't matter if it's 5,000 BC Hinduism or it's contemporary Christianity. Doesn't matter. People are saying thank you and please to what they conceive of as deity. So when we go there, we're in that field where these are the most visited places on planet Earth. Human beings have come here since the dawn of civilization and have done the most beautiful thing, and that's to express love of the divine. Now, that's the most beautiful thing. And so when we go there, we're in those sacred geometry, resonant chambers. What's happening at the Great Pyramid or at Chichen Itza? We go there. We're plugged in there. I hope the people listening to this get that, the importance of these places for that reason.
Now, in your study of the world's religions and these sacred sites, do you think that there is one common denominator when it comes to a deity or a god, where it has spread through cultures and now it's gods of other names, but is there just one source?
Yes, I think there's one source, but there's a lot of different ways to look at it.
How so?
And then, well, it's like that story in Buddhism or in Hinduism. One time there was a blind man. They wanted to know what an elephant was like, and so they went up. Somebody said, "Well, they asked me, well, tell us what's an elephant like." So the person in the story puts them in front of an elephant. They can't see, so they all touch different parts of the elephant. One of them touches its tail, says, "Oh, it's like a great snake." and one of them touches his belly. Oh, it's like a great soft bowl. And one of it touches its ears. It's a flappy rug. But they all felt the same thing, but they felt different parts of it. They interpreted it and assessed it and talked about it in different ways. Same thing with this thing we might call God being a word, that thing that is indefinable. And so we just use different words to point at it. But the words aren't the thing. That thing is the same, but people will perceive it through a cultural conditioning that has been imposed upon them by their upbringing, by their schooling. So they're going to see certain things, interpret things in certain ways, yes. But the thing itself that's being experienced, there's a oneness.
So my father-in-law, Rita's dad, last week, it's just ironic that you sent me this picture of Meteora. So he sits me down, right? He goes, okay, now, Jimmy, you need to understand, Greeks invented everything. I swear this comes out of his mouth, right? And, he's 83, 84 years old. He goes, and that includes meteors. I said, excuse me. And he takes me through the whole thing, he shows me his photographs, and he's been here. And he explained to me the definition of meteor, which means above the earth. Right. And he shows, and then you send me this incredible picture of Meteora. And most people don't know where the word came from. And it came from here, this sacred site in Greece. Were you able to go up there, or did you just shoot it?
Well, because I hadn't thought of that in a bit. I went to this after I'd been in Mount Athos. So I'd spent at that time maybe 3 weeks the first time I was in Mount Athos. There's 20 monasteries. I've now stayed at 17 of them. Mm-hmm. But after, I think that first one, maybe it was 5 or 6 monasteries. And so I kind of became familiar with the way in which you knock on the door, gain entrance inside, become a pilgrim, become staying there for a while, because Mount Athos in northeastern Greece, you can't go to as a tourist. This place, this is the monastery of Rousseau at Meteora. You can go there as tourist, but you can't get inside as a tourist. But because of what I do, but at this point, when I was there the first time, when I took this picture in 1986.
Right.
Okay. This is during my year time in 11 months a year in Europe and 11 countries by bicycle. That's when I went here, but I went here after Athos, and so I was able to get inside. The interesting thing is how I shot that picture, though. It's shot with a 300 millimeter lens, which is 6 magnification, but I climbed up one of those sort of crevices that you see, the sort like you see behind it. I climbed way up one of those and then shot it with a 300 millimeter to get that picture. This is not, I like this picture. This is a pretty one.
Yeah, and on the other side, what's really funny that you don't see here, but on the other side is
it's just as sheer,
and that's how they get all of the it's by ropes, right?
Yeah.
all of the food.
Yeah,
absolutely incredible. I said to my dad, I turned to him, I said, "So how did they order a pizza?" Right, and he shot me this look. I was like, it was just a joke, man. It was just a joke. But this is one of the most incredible sacred sites on the planet, Meteora, Greece. Incredible that you were there. Your shot of Mecca. Oh
boy, that's a good story.
Yeah, tell me about it. That's pretty breathtaking.
This is really interesting. You bring that up. I'm finding that picture right now.
I've seen your image. I've seen this image so many times.
I don't want to turn the Skype off. I don't know if I pulled up Google Images right now, but if you go onto Google Images, not just Google, but Google Images,
right,
and you put in Mecca, that picture is a lot of times for years it's been the #1 picture.
Number one.
It's always in the top 10.
Yes.
One, and another one of the pictures that I took down when I'm inside the building. This was so I did Islam in real detail from French West Africa all the way over to Indonesia. Went to a whole bunch of the major sacred sites, and then I did the conversion process to Islam, and then I went on the Hajj. I went on this, and that was 25 years ago. I bet that is 20 years ago. I went there, and there's 1.1 million people in the building.
Wait a minute, you did the Hajj? Did you actually get to the cube? Did you?
I was down on the Hajj and being at the Haram al-Sharif, the main mosque, are two different things. during part of the Hajj is you go through that. You start and you end at this place at the Haram al-Sharif, at the Black Cube.
Right.
But the Hajj itself is pre-Islamic, and Muhammad just took it and incorporated it into what he started as Islam. This place, what's really interesting, there's a big building built around it, but that Kaaba, which just means cube, if you go on a website, you can see a much closer picture. That was already there, and there were 360 shrines, which is very close to the notion of the solar year. So there were 360 shrines of different deities, because where Mecca is, how it started, it was the intersection of two trade routes across the Saudi Arabian, the Arabian Peninsula, not Saudi, that's the family of Saud. Across the Arabian Peninsula were these two trade routes, and where they intersected is this place. Well, then what is probable, well, not sure, what is probable is the meteorite stone was brought from someplace else and was here, and it was one of the shrines of the 360 shrines at this place. And then Muhammad tore loads of them down. It's all on the website, the whole history of it. He tore a bunch of them down, but he specifically didn't tear the ones down of Jesus and Mary. They were left up, and Mary is mentioned in the Quran more than in the New Testament. I think that's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So this place that Islam built on it, but it is, again, we have evidence, we know for sure this was a pagan sacred site prior to the development of Islam in this area.
How does it, I've got to take a break right here. You give me the shortest answer possible. What does it feel like to have this image, one of the most recognized images of Mecca? I have looked at your picture 100 times.
Oh, really? Okay.
How does that make you feel? I mean, it is a remarkable image.
Oh, the story of how I got it is great too. But yeah, it's a pretty picture. I like looking at that one. It's beautiful. So many of these pictures. Yeah, I've got some. It's basic. It's not so difficult. Technical ability to take the picture, and then like the gifts of the gods, the gifts of the weather gods, and the place and the light. And look at that. There's no filtration on this. That's how it looked. The sun had set. The lights were coming on. Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's incredible.
Yikes. I'm the only one up. There's two guards that the day before I was up on one tall building. And it was like, okay, this is great, but I want this next one. And these two guys said, no, you can't do that. And I said, call the sheik, this one sheik who was watching over me, taking care of things. So they called him, and he said, it's kind of tough, Martin. I said, please, next tomorrow. And so he called me back like 5 hours later. He says, okay, but CNN and Time Magazine couldn't get up here. You're alone up here this year. So that picture is completely unique.
It's an amazing photograph. Our guest tonight, Martin Gray. This is Fade to Black. Martin, it's an honor. We're going to keep this going right after this break. Stay with us, everybody.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on jimmychurchradio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRAradio.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354. Or visit MIG911.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony. Damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, photographer, Pilgrim, Martin Gray. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. We are posting some of Martin's favorite pics. And we said to Martin, we said, send us what you would like the world to see. And this collection, Martin, is extraordinary. And I'm going to skip ahead. And
I have 500 of that quality, by the way. 500. It's always hard to. I said to you, how many you want? Read us 10. I was like, 10? How do I? How? Oh gosh, that's so hard. Because the one you don't pick, it's clamoring. It's going, well, with me too.
Right.
Show me.
Right. No doubt about it. Well, Mount Kailash. This is redunculous. This is an amazing image. And now, where, what, when, and how? That's all I have to say. This is about as sacred as it gets. Tell me about this.
Well, this is, in a certain sense, that's true, because by virtue of the number of people that have visited it, Jerusalem is going to be the most sacred site by virtue of the number of people that have been there. But by virtue of the number of people that consider it a sacred place, Kailash, it's the number one sacred site of Buddhism, of Hinduism, of Jainism, and of Bon, or Bonpo, which was the pre-Buddhist religion in Tibet. But it's super remote. Now the Chinese have finally made a railroad near it, but it took me to getting back over here and back, and there were no roads in certain parts of Tibet that I drove to. No roads. We would drive for days over this, no roads. It was so incredible to get to this place. And then that truck stopped, and then there were some other people in the truck, and there's some other, actually, not travelers, not pilgrims, not tourists, travelers. And two of them walked around it for 4 days. What I decided to do is I was going to do this because I'd heard, okay, these Tibetan yogis, they're really good. They go around it in 1 day. So I thought, let's see if I could do it. And so I did it in 10.5 hours. I went all the way around the mountain. I'm at 19,500 feet right now where I'm shooting it. This is 2 days before I went around it, because I walked all the way into the base of it, which is called the inner Kora, or the inner Parikrama. I went all the way in, and then 2 days later, I was rested up, and I went all around it, the whole mountain, and in 11 to 12 hours, right in there, Mount Kailash. Shiva is said to live on top of it, and he's up there where he copulates with Shakti a lot, and he smokes ganja all the time. Shiva is constantly stoned on top of Mount Kailash. That's the legend. So again, you could say, well, Shiva doesn't really, it's cold up there. He doesn't really live up there. What is a legend a metaphor of? What is it indicating? I tell this to people a lot. Read the myths. Read the myths. And if you read enough myth like I do, you'll go, oh, there's commonalities. And the myths are stories. They're not just fanciful imaginations of pre-literate people. No, they're stories, and they tell something if you know the key to the myth. And the key to the myth is who is the deity and what are they doing where? That tells you some important stuff.
Now, this shot of the Potala Palace in Tibet, I feel like I've seen this image 1,000 times.
Well, probably not, because this is a very rare angle. This was an illegal angle. There was a Chinese, this is the beginning of the Chinese came in 1959, but they were already here, but it wasn't nothing like all the Han Chinese there now. But I went to Lhasa. This is on this time when I'm in Tibet about a month, and I get to Lhasa, and I have another nice picture, which you don't have now there. You can go on the website and see it from the top of the Zhoukang temple. This was the residence of the Dalai Lamas. The hill, though, is called Marpo-ri, M-A-R-P-O-R-I, and it's said to be the abode of a Chenrezi, of this certain deity who is a Tibetan depiction of Avalokiteshvara, or the Bodhisattva of compassion. And it can be Canon or Kuan Yin, it can be male or female. So what this is, the legends about these sort of places, Avalokiteshvara is a deity of compassion. So what this is an indication of, it's a place. It's a place that has a quality that will accentuate that, awaken that in human visitors. So if you want more compassion in your heart, in your being, this is the type of place that you want to go to. Why does it have a legend about a deity that has that quality? Because that's how people transmit that information over thousands of years. They tell a story, and the story gets retold and retold and retold about a place. And so then people just think about the story, but they don't understand the deeper meaning or implication of it. This is a power place, an empowerment point of the quality of compassion in the human heart.
And it must be overwhelming, the power, do you feel it from the second you set foot there?
Yes and no. There's some of the places that I don't. It's not that I don't resonate with them, but it's not like that's how to put that in it. I go to some of the sites where I could douse them. I could say, okay, there's energy here. I can feel it, but they're not so resonant for me. Right. Different people will be attracted to different sites, but it's not something that bowls you over. It's not something that knocks you over. It's a subtle. I tell people, say, well, what is it? I say it's a non-material region of influence extending in space, continuing in time. A non-material region of influence extending in space, continuing in time. So when you come into it, it's subtle. Maybe it's one that you really relate to, you resonate with, and it can be much stronger for some people. Some of them have been very strong for me, but because there's different types of sites that resonate with different types of people at different times in their lives, it's hard to make it's all this or it's all that. It's many things.
And the view that is here, in the
which one
of Tibet, in the background, which direction is China from this view?
It would be, China's so darn big, and the Chinese would go, what do you mean? This is China. We own it.
That's where I'm going next.
From where question. You are, if you basically just straight looking over the Potala Palace, the red part, yes. And then over the mountains, just straight. That would be China up there in a ways.
And right now,
into the right too. Yeah,
it's starting to heat up there once again.
Oh yeah, it's a problem.
What was it like there? When was the last time you were there?
Only been there one time, and that I could look it up. I bet you it's 94, 95. It's over 20 years.
Was the pressure there when you were there?
It was certainly beginning. It was definitely there. Yeah, it was sad.
I know.
Now it's just over the top. And the sad thing is about it is it's once you do what has been done by the Chinese there, and I know a whole lot. I really study. We haven't even begun to dwell on. Well, Martin, you also have this other study of contemporary issues, and social, political, economic, and environmental. I know a great deal of what's happening on the planet, and some of what the Chinese is doing is great, and some of it is really not great at all, and all of it can be explained. But it's really sad what's happened here with the Han Chinese moving in. It's really sad. It's really, really, really sad. And it's not something that you can just, go away and stop them coming. No, it's been completely changed.
Why do you think?
Sad.
I know. Why do you think the Chinese are putting up this fight like they are with Tibet? I mean, I don't.
Well, it's territory and it's access to mineral resources. It's all
that's
economic.
what it is, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
It's not a historical thing. It's not a religious thing. It's not a symbolic thing.
In a certain sense, it's the good the Chinese came in there, because Tibetan Buddhism is not Buddhism. It's Lamaism. Songtsen Gampo came in 742, and then Padmasambhava came later. And both of them, especially Songtsen Gampo, there was a huge oppression of the local people. There were a lot of the Bonpo priests were killed. Their sacred sites were taken over. Marpori, it was already a sacred site. The Tibetans took the Tibetans that came in, and the Indians and the Chinese, they took over this site, and the religion that was there before was Bon, and the Bon was good with women and good with land. You look at what Tibetan Buddhism is; it's really hard on women. Really, in Tibet, you got your Tibetan Buddhists and Boulder. They don't even know what it is. I a lot of times people say they're Buddhists. I go, what sect? And they go, well, I'm a Tibetan. I go, they don't even know what they're talking about. Even a lot of times the Tibetan Buddhists who think they know what they're talking about, I go, do you know your pre-Buddhist history in that region? They don't know it. Well, if you know it, you go, oh, well, man, it's kind of sad that the Tibetans came, the Buddhism came there. It started oppressing the women and turned into a feudal aristocracy as a theology, as a theocracy. And it's really sad what happened, and the Chinese came and they stopped it all. So that's, in a sense, good. In a sense, I don't want a free Tibet. Free Tibet, go back to what it was, is bad for women, bad for the land. If you don't know that, you don't know your history. So the Chinese, they're doing something that I don't like, of another sort. Both of them are non-ideal.
Now, this image of the Pyramid of the Magician, I'm going to get this posted up here right now. This is about as breathtaking as it gets.
I don't know how open I can be on this radio. Can I go out there a little?
Yeah, you can go out there.
Okay, so there's a little story here. So I was at this place about 3 weeks before I took that picture, and another sacred site near it called Labna. In this area, there's Labna, Edzna, and Sail. And so I was at both, and when I was climbing, you don't have the picture there, but when I was at Labna, I was climbing up to photograph a certain part, and I had to go on this unreconstructed mound of rocks, which was probably some sub-pyramid. And as I'm going up it, I see this sort of hole in the rocks over to my right, and something inside me says, don't go in there. Don't go in there. And so I had one time before had an experience at a power place on the top of Haleakala, or near the top of Haleakala, where the energy was non-resonant with me or too strong or something. I wasn't ready for it. So this was like that sort of thing. So I didn't go in it. I got my picture and I left. And then I went to Uxmal and I did whatever I did. Didn't take this picture. Then like 2 weeks later, I have this instruction, this suggestion. Okay, go back to Labna and go in that hole. So I went back to Labna and I went into that hole, but I thought, let's crank up the energy. So I took 5 hits of LSD, and I stripped naked, and I went into that dark hole, and I spent 5 hours in that hole at Labna, naked on LSD.
No way.
Yeah. 2 times I was shown the void, and I was looking into the void, going into the void, and in 2 times the fear became, it's too dark. It's too dark. I can't take this. And I went out. And then the 3rd time it happened, okay, I'm like on LSD for 4 or 5 hours. I haven't seen any light whatsoever. I'm completely in this dark rocks down in this hole.
Man.
And then the 3rd time, finally, when people tell me I took a Tony Robbins course and I walked on the coals, or I did the ropes course and I've encountered great fear. You can't even spell the word.
Right.
Okay? So then the 3rd time, finally I let go. And I went into the void. I went into the darkness. That's a big story, what happened. But then after I came out, then I got on my bicycle, and I rode to this place, to Uxmal, and I came around. You can see it on the right where there's that tree on the right. I walked around there, and then I walked to kind of between the pyramid and where I am, kind of this other building, and I look up at the sky, and I went, oh, my gosh, I got to get this. Well, I'm still way out on the LSD. But I took one camera off of my backpack, and I put on a 15 millimeter lens. And then the way I had to get this picture, I climbed up the outside of this wall of this one building, highly illegal. And then I'm pinned to the wall, and I can't turn around. I'm just on the side of this wall. So I hold the camera with a lens. I climbed up with the camera hung off my neck and the camera on my back because I'm climbing up this wall with my chest to the wall. And I can't even turn around, so I take the camera with my hand from behind my back, and I'm holding on the wall, and I kind of turn my head a little bit, and I kind of aim it thinking that I'll get it, and I shot one picture, and then I came down. Because it's film, I didn't get the picture back for, I don't know how it would, maybe 2.5, 3 months. I didn't see the pictures.
No, wait. Let's pump the brakes on this truck here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You're saying that this image that I'm looking at of the Pyramid of the Magician in Uxmal, you climbed a wall high on 5 hits of acid, turned around, snapped one picture on film, and then left. And that's the image we are looking at here.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see it because in digital you can look at the back of the screen and go,
course.
oh, yeah, I like that. Look at that. Oh, it's great. When you're shooting film, there's no digital back. I shot this picture in 87 and 87 maybe.
Do you know what kind of magic is in this picture?
Well, it's fitting. It's called the Temple of the Magician.
Right.
And so we got to understand, well, what's the legend? And the legend, I have it on my website. Well, why is it called that? This is a magic place. And if you really, here's a fascinating one. And these are two Orthodox archaeology, David Friedel and Linda Sheely. She's passed away. They were Orthodox archaeologists, both college professors of Mayan archaeology, and they did a lot of studies in this. And it's quoted on my website, the paragraphs in their books while they're talking about it. And they say if you look at the layout of the Mayan sites relative to one another on the land of Yucatan, Guatemala, Honduras, you look at their layout of them, they're star maps. They're placed in position. It's this we call sacred geography, not geometry, but geography.
Right.
And in my website, in the book, I talk about different types of sacred geographies. Well, one of them is a lot of times the depiction of the heavens on the earth. Like Graham Hancock's book, Heaven's Mirror, is a really good exposition of this. You know, people look at the stars, and then they, at a particular time, and this is basically what archaeoastronomy is about. Archaeoastronomy is about, okay, what's the latitude and longitude here? Mm-hmm. And then if we look at the sites, the layout of the sites on the land or the structures at particular sites, and we look at them, and you can feed it. There's even a software program called Sky Globe, and you can feed something into it and put the latitude and longitude and say, well, when did the heavens above
back it up,
like
back it up. Right.
Yeah, and it'll tell you a date.
Right.
So sacred geography, and then the sacred geometry that this place is built with in the site. Uxmal is magnificent.
I'm the other thing about that. Now, tell me, and then we're going to move on. But now that I know the story behind this pic, now I've got 100 questions. Right? Okay. So, did you climb the stairs? Did you go into the door?
Yeah. Now you can't, because somebody fell down, a couple of them in Mexico, and so they made the climbing of them. And this is a particular steep set of stairs. But you can go up. I spent the night in there.
Oh, man.
Now you can't do that stuff unless you're, like me, extremely good at sneaking into things.
You are the guy to go on a tour with, no doubt. There's
people hear a lot of interesting stuff.
Now let's go to the Stones of Stennis in Scotland. Again, another...
See, now that's another great story.
Let's hear it.
That story?
I do.
Okay, let me go to that picture, because I was on my bicycle, and this is on a little island, and the Orkneys, which is between the Shetlands and northeastern Scotland. And so I get there, and I'm on my bicycle, so I'm in this place called Stromway, and I get there at night. In the afternoon, I get off the ferry, and the next morning I get on my bicycle and I ride before the sun has come up. It's about an hour and a half ride, and it's very cold and it's snowing. And I ride to this stone ring, and there's these sheep in the middle of the stone ring, and wow, great. So I go up close and to take the picture, and they run away. Oh, shucks, I blew the shot. So I'll come back tomorrow, which means early in the morning again, the whole thing. Well, then I came back the next day, and you can see the sheep are standing up, and they're looking at me. There's no fences here keeping them there. No fence. The sheep are sleeping there because they sense something. They like it there. What is it? That thing that I've been trying to explain that I can't because there's no word for it, this energy. So you see they're looking at me going, oh, is he going to come over here? Do we have to leave? So I shot this picture with a 300 millimeter lens, 6 magnification. Then I walked into the stone ring. Sheep leave. Then I leave. I walk around because there's a place called the Ring of Brogdar nearby. I go and photograph it, walk around it. I come back and, oh, wow, the sheep are back in the middle of the circle.
That's incredible.
So then I walked in there again, and the sheep left. And in that afternoon, I came and they were again there. Why? They don't have words to say it. Their brain isn't in the way, or their mind. They didn't go to school. They didn't get their degree in something. Oh, I'm a PhD. Oh, I'm an engineer. Oh, I'm a doctor. Oh, a lot of those things sometimes can let you see something deeper, understand more. But a lot of times they're filters. They get in the way. It's best like the wisdom of the babes, as they say. Well, here's the wisdom. You know what I often say? We human beings have such hubris. We go around giving Latin names to different species, and we call ourselves Homo sapiens. It means wise being. That's what we call ourselves. But look what we're doing in Syria. Wise beings. But these are sheep. These are the wise beings. They have a longer evolutionary pedigree than we have. They've been here longer, the animals. We human beings, we're just animals without quite as much fur, and we make weapons and we kill each other. Where's this wise beingness?
Right.
These are people say, I want a guru. I go, your dog, your cat. That's your guru.
You know who the guru is? Is the sheep that's standing in the middle of the group looking right down the barrel of your lens. That dude is cool. That is an incredible, absolutely incredible picture. So they would, and they're grouped too. That's the other thing. There's nobody that's
no outliers.
Yeah, there's no stragglers here. They're all right there, just enjoying the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's an incredible picture. Just absolutely incredible. Okay, let's see. I'm going to have to keep you for a little overtime here. We're going to do maybe an extra 5-10 minutes after this next break. Temple of Hera in Italy.
Oh, see, now that's so fantastic. A lot of times I hear the legends about these places. I read the stuff about it before I go looking for where is her. I don't know if I find her, well, because we don't have that much time. Okay, so the legend about this place, Temple of Hera. Hera is a goddess of creativity. This is a Greek temple, but it's in western Italy near Naples, south of Naples, okay? Paestum. So the legend is that, well, Hera's a goddess of fertility. Well, you'll find at some sites on the planet, there's also this place called Cerne Abbas in England, where people will go, and if the woman has trouble conceiving of a child, they go and they make love here in the confines of the temple, because there's a belief that the goddess, and again, the goddess is just an indication of the yin energy, the feminine energy at the site, that at that particular place, somehow that energy for some people, some of the times, not everybody, and just because it doesn't happen to everybody doesn't mean it doesn't happen to some.
Right.
And it has somehow a capacity to bring fertility to women, or ease make the person will then, their childbirth will be eased, or it imbues this child with some magic. So I went there thinking, it's just his legend. Nobody believes this stuff, because this is the beginning. I'm in 1986. This is just at the beginning of my studies. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm still getting information. I haven't really even begun to read. Now I've read over 2,000 books on this subject. I really know it, but back then I didn't. I get there, and my gosh, there's people making love within the temple at night. It's an archaeology site, and you're not allowed to be in there at night. I guess other people snuck in, or they get over the fence. Well, I'm in there because I spent the night at the site with my bicycle. But there were 2 couples in the middle of the temple, of that particular temple right there, making love at night. I saw it.
Did you get pictures?
No.
I'm just messing with you.
I know.
Yeah, it's again, the way that the clouds are, the way that you've got this framed, it's just magic, man.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like that one myself.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Now, when we come back, there's a couple of other shots here. Mount Ararat is incredible, and the story behind Ararat.
Yeah, that was on the front of my softback version of Sacred Earth that Barnes & Noble did a few years ago on the soft. And you can still, they're out of print, but you can get them on Amazon. New and in great condition on Amazon. You can get these books now for like $8. Just buy them. They're fantastic. Big, thick photography book. Is the biggest selling photography book in, I think, 2004 in the United States. They did it in 5 languages. They did it in 2 editions. This book was beautiful. You can still get them on Amazon.
So do you think Noah's Ark is on Ararat?
Oh, that's a really interesting story to talk about.
Okay, well, we'll do that after the break. So give me a yes or a no.
Yes.
Ooh, he's going with yes. You know,
I got to unpack the legend, though. I got to explain the legend,
okay,
and you'll see why I say yes.
We'll do that after the break. And this is, for me, and I try to push this as much as I can with our audience. When it comes to Turkey and Armenia.
I'm in Armenia, by the way. When I'm taking the picture, I'm in Armenia.
That's okay. And I try most, and when I say most, I'm talking about the entire planet. They assume that Turkey today, modern day Turkey, is part of the ancient history. It is not. Armenia and the Armenian highlands, which is now Turkey today, that is the true history.
Right.
And Ararat falls into modern day and what is going on there now, much like Tibet. There's a lot of bickering about all of this. Yeah, it totally is. And we'll talk about all of it. I cannot wait to hear what you have to say about this. So we'll do that when we come back. Our guest tonight, Martin Gray. Martin, thank you for doing a little overtime. I knew that we would do this tonight. There's way too much.
For 10 hours.
Yeah, I know you can. And we'll try right after this short break. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You want to see all of these images, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio, hashtag F2B. We've got them all posted there. More with Martin right after this. Stay with us.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter, but listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheT.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring two Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hard shell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The two full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129 and use the promo code JCRTWS and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to jimmychurchradio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
Welcome back. Fade to Black, doing a little overtime with photographer Martin Gray, researcher, historian, pilgrim. I've just posted up this picture of Mount Ararat, which is absolutely breathtaking. And, okay, I'm ready, Martin. What did you call it? The legend, the story behind Noah's Ark?
Okay, well, the important thing is to first of all understand that there were a number of events that happened in antiquity, and really, really ancient antiquity, that found their way into myth. And in 9600 BC and in 7460 BC, two really important things happened. 9600 BC, whatever caused the crustal displacement. And then in 7460, there were 7 cometary impacts. There was an object that came into the solar system, and then probably it got, well, I don't even want to say what happened before it got to Earth, but that when it came into the atmosphere of Earth, it broke into 7 pieces. Those 7 pieces fell into the ocean. All of them had ocean location landings. And what they did is they generated waves. And there's been some calculations done that due to the angle that the object came in, the size, the mass, the depth of the water there, that what it would do, it would set up waves. And some of the waves could be 1 mile to 2 miles high, going over 400 miles per hour, and going 200 to 300 miles inland. So if this happened, because of people living along coastlines for access to fish stocks, which is rich nutrient, it's actually easier to get food from the sea if you can fish it than growing it. So people have always lived along coastlines. Well, all 7 of these objects, they hit into the ocean, and they caused these massive tsunamis, exceeding anything that happened in the Indonesian tsunami. Those are just little blowing on the water. Nothing. What would have happened of these huge waves, the only people that would have survived were the people who were either high up or far inland. And certainly if you're high up and far inland, civilization would not have been destroyed. Well, way back then, even if there was no people living here, there were temples up here. The people were living on the ground, or lower altitudes, but the waves would have washed them away. It would have decimated the people. Everybody would have died. But some of their temples up high in the mountains wouldn't have been lost. So with the notion of a Noah's Ark up here, if there was a wooden craft, but would a wooden craft even at 9600 BC, that's a long time for wood to have stayed. But the markings of where a ship could have been. So there has been something found up here. I don't know exactly where it is. There's been something found up here that people surmise. They say, oh, it really looks like the wooden sides of a ship. It makes sense that would be the case. So then you got to unpack Noah's Ark legend a little bit more, and there's a lot that can be said about that. That is not particularly what I'm saying about just the fact that there could be something up here. I'm talking about the ancient legend, the whole myth, the notion of flood myths. They're all over the world. For even there were 4 cometary, 2 pass-bys and 2 cometary impacts between 3113 and 1198 BC, just in the Mediterranean area. So we have a lot of different celestially caused floods and cometary impacts. That's the case. But what I'm talking about is 9600 BC and 7460. There were events that would have impacted on this area, and out of those could have come some of those flood myths, of which Noah's Ark is one. I can go into much more detail, but we don't have the time here.
Now, in the lake,
did that make sense?
Absolutely. And speaking of this, in the lake in front of, on the Armenian side of Mount Ararat, is one of the oldest monasteries on planet Earth. Is right there. What is in the foreground of this shot?
That's a monastery called Khor, Khor Virab, V-I-R-A-P, and it's Armenian Christianity. I don't know of if there's any evidence of a pre-Christian use of that particular hillock there that the Khor Virab monastery is on. I don't know of that. There are some stories about this. Some of them are on the website about this particular monastery. The monastery itself is beautiful. It's not super significant. It's just it fit nicely in the photograph, and it's a nice little monastery. The church is very nice. You go in that church. But the church and the monastery are not 1/100th the significance of the mountain. The mountain is like, whoa, it's extremely important, that mountain.
Yeah,
that is the Mount Kailash of Christianity and Judaism.
Absolutely,
okay?
Absolutely.
That's what that is. That's the Mount Kailash of Christianity and Judaism. As a sacred mountain, this is as sacred as you get.
Why do and you've been to Armenia enough? Why is it? And I ask a lot of researchers this same question. Why is it that Armenia isn't spoken about the same as Egypt and Sumer and Greece and Rome, for that matter?
Oh, well, they're all at different time periods. Greece and Rome are going to be. Greece will be talked about because it was so sophisticated in a sense, its philosophy and its architecture. Rome, just because it was so big. Sumer is because it's so old. Mesopotamia, Sumer, same area, so old. Egypt, so old and such grand architecture. Armenia didn't have such ancient-wise, didn't have such great architecture, ancient-wise. In Armenia, you can't really speak of Armenia. You can talk about Armenia, up to 1000 BC, but 1000 BC is not old, especially in this area. It's not old at all. But then none of this stuff, this Christian stuff there, that's 2nd century AD. That's not old at all. So if you go way back in Armenia, then we can't say much way back. We can't say much about what was happening on the lands there, but the myth, that's why I'm really interested in paleo, the old mythology, paleo mythology. We don't have much paleo archaeology about Armenia that's really, really old. It's just, we don't, but the myths we do.
Or they have Karahunj.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. That's old. That's true.
That's old. 7000 BC.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, that's back to the era that I'm talking about. But the Christian stuff is not very old, and the Islamic stuff here not very old. That's real recent. Karahunj, this is very old. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no doubt. Now your shot here of the Parthenon. Okay, when did you take this?
That was when I first got to Europe on that journey, because I'd done the Japan thing, then I'd done Mexico, had my first big robbery. All my cameras, 2 cameras and 8 lenses got stolen at knife point. That was interesting in Mexico. And so then I had my travel. I still owned the travel agency, so I got Olympic Airways. They gave me free tickets, so I flew over to Greece, and I was in Athens. And even before I rode the bicycle over to Delphi and then went all over the Greek islands. When I was in Kyoto, Japan, a few months before, this French photographer, who's still now a friend of mine, I just saw him in Kyoto a year and a half ago. He told me this certain technique, and so I photographed the Parthenon with the moon that way. And this was like April of 1986. And that place, that's really interesting. If you, again, reading the myth is on the website, but Athena is a goddess of certain qualities. If you look at all these different Greek gods and goddesses, you can say, well, what are they a god or a goddess of? That's the quality of the place. That's the thing that the place will accentuate or empower in the visitor.
There's not one. How did you manage to take this without another person being in this photograph?
Oh, I do that a lot. I just wait. The tourists walk around or the pilgrims walk around, and then sometimes I'm kind of wishing, go, move, get out of the picture. And then when they do, and it was near the closing because I wanted the shadow to come right up to the base of the Parthenon, so that it was like there was a light ray, a light beam on the Parthenon. This place is very dear to me. I've been to Athens. I went there. You see this when we left India when I was 16. we came back and we went to the Great Pyramid. My parents, my father, my mother, my sister, and I, we went to Cairo, and then we went to Rome, and we went to Athens on our way back. And so I got to go to the Parthenon the first time when I was 16, and I fell in love with it then.
When we talk about sacred geometry, there's a lot of sacred math in the Parthenon.
Which they got from the Egyptians.
They did. Yeah. Are you able to...
Lock, stock, and barrel.
Were you able to grasp that as you walk around it?
Yeah, it's of such stunning beauty.
Right.
They refined it. They do their architecture in a different way. The Egyptians had go to Karnak and Luxor, and they got grand columns that are more astonishing than any of the columns of the Greeks. But the Greeks also, it's white marble, and then the fluted ones, and then the pediments, and just some things the way the Greeks did it. Oh, they're so beautiful. And Greek is all about sacred geography. My gosh, Greek, there's books on it. They're linked on my website of the sacred geography of the ancient Greeks. Gee whiz, it's amazing what the Greeks did. They refined the Egyptian.
Yeah, and you know what's really depressing in a way when it comes to the Parthenon? I mean, it stayed intact until modern times. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was during one particular war. It's on the website. I don't remember the exact date. There was a powder magazine, and it blew up. And
they stored their ammunition. Yeah, they stored their ammunition there.
Yeah, it's so sad. Oh. And then Lord Elgin, he's a political guy. The Elgin marbles. He took. You go into. I was just there a year and a half ago. I came back from Africa, 5 months in Africa last year, and then I went up and I was back in Greece because I wanted to go up to Samothrace up in the northeast. So I'm with my friend. I have a friend in Athens, Greece. He's like the Martin Gray of Greece. He really knows Greece real well. Thanasis Vembos. So I went back up to the Parthenon, and some people say, the Elgin marbles, the real ones, which are in the British Museum should be returned to Athens, and I don't know. Part of me, the Greeks don't take such good care of things, and the current government is like IMF is bailing them out. It's like a slow drip. They're constantly bailing them out. Greeks aren't too good at political administration now, so in one sense, better to leave them in the British Museum.
It's an incredible picture, and thank you for capturing so many places around the earth for us all to enjoy. And again, go to National Geographic or go to Sacred Sites, either one.
Yeah, sacredsites.com is where you see all the pictures, and you get all the nice essays and all the Google Maps and all the bibliographies, and it's completely free. Sacredsites.com.
Now, we've been talking about pilgrims all night. I want to know your definition.
Well, it's an interesting thing. Somebody one time said that mysticism is inner pilgrimage, and pilgrimage is outer mysticism. Think about that.
Right.
Mysticism is inner pilgrimage, and pilgrimage is outer mysticism. So to me, what a pilgrim is someone who joins a lot. Okay, there's three types of people that go to these sites: religious pilgrims, Buddhist to Buddhist sites, Hindus to Hindus, Christians to Christians, not much overlap. Then there's modern day tourists who go to places of monumental architecture. They go see the Giza pyramids or Stonehenge. And then there's people like you and I and a lot of the listeners right now, and they're drawn to these places for other reasons. That number is vastly growing. We are at the beginning of what I am calling a Gaian, like from Gaia, a Gaian age of pilgrimage. And what it is my prediction, my prophecy, my suggestion, that in the next 20 to 30 years, you're going to see a large number of people going to these planetary acupuncture points because they are veils between the realms, because they are destiny activation points. People come here, some people with an assignment, something to do here in life. Maybe they don't know what it is. They go to one of these sites. These sites have a certain energy, a key that awakens things into people. They're transducers of spiritual illumination. More and more people will be going to these places, and these are also these node points for what I'm calling a supranational state of consciousness. We're having an evolution of political systems on the planet where we're going from a time where there's many national sovereign state identities, and you will see in the next 200 years, none of us will be here, but in the next 200 years there will be a blending of these national sovereign state identities into this hugely creative and cooperative global community of consciousness, a state of consciousness. This is happening now. it's just in its beginning phases. Most people can't see it the way I can see it, and they haven't had the visions of it the way I have. But something magnificent is happening on this planet, and the nodes for the plug-in places at this, where they're charged, where the family comes together, is the sacred sites as the PowerPoint. So I want my listeners to hear that if they go to these places, something is awakening in them. Seeds are being planted in them by going now. These are beginning to have a non-traditional usage. In the next 20 to 30 years, it's just going to go like wildfire across the planet at these power places. Just hear that, people, and go to these sites for that.
You can feel it. I totally agree with you. You can absolutely totally feel the shift, and it's there. Well, what about the purpose of, because the cultures should be separated. They're separated by land mass and water. They're also separated by time and language, but yet they are connected. Is there a collective purpose that they knew about? And
some people would, not that many. Not that many people had that visionary insight back then. And then anything that if you have something that's really, really old knowledge, the only way you can encode it, or you can have the old knowledge transmitted, is either by the myths. But the older the myth, the more it's hard to read it.
Right.
And then in the stones, but the stones fall over, they get eroded. We don't know who the builders were, all of that. So even if there's really ancient knowledge, it's transmitted, but it's hard to find, it's hard to interpret, it's hard to unpack the myth. That's hard to do that. But I think a few things are happening here. One, it's hubris again to think that we're the only ones here. There's trillions of galaxies, and the average number of stars per, especially the galaxies, is 200 billion stars per galaxy. So you get your average galaxy, 200 billion stars, and the number that we've noticed by radio telescopes, 1 trillion. So 1 trillion times 200 billion, it's a big number. 60, 70, 80% of them could have planetary systems around them, coalesced out of fields of interstellar gas, the whole thing. I can talk about it, won't here. But if that 60, 50, take it 25% of trillions of possible planets, it would be ridiculous beyond, it'd be embarrassingly arrogant, ridiculous to think we're the only ones. So there's something happening here that stars, certainly planets, they are species of life too. That's what's going on with Gaia. Well, my feeling is this entire planet as itself is a living entity. We are on that entity. We come and we go, but this planet, this Gaia, the planet is itself going through a spiritual evolution, going through a transformation into what form I know not. But we are riding the wave of that now. We are truly at the beginning of the age of Aquarius. That's what's going on here. And that is so exciting. If somebody is in any way depressed what's happening with DDT, DDT, poison, tramp, if people are depressed with that, take the long view, take the bigger view, stand up a little bit, and you'll see, there's crisis breaking out all over this planet, but we are billions strong. We, the people listening to this. I know this because I've been in 150 countries. I've seen us everywhere. We are awakening. And to know that, to see that the way I see it, gives one such tremendous hope for the future. Such beauty is breaking upon this planet also.
Can you underscore one more time how powerful Earth Gaia is? I mean, what are you really trying to say, Martin?
I'm saying that there's some grand awakening happening on the planet, and some of us are going to get to play a part in that. And if some people, they don't know why they're here, they haven't figured it out, and maybe they've gone through some difficulties. It's all preparation. Reframe it. Just reframe it. Rather than saying something's wrong, look at it and go, okay, difficult teaching. Here's the good I get from it. And the good we can get from some of our life experiences is magnificent. And then if we can awaken into consciousness, if we can take the bigger view, and if we can band together, and it doesn't mean you got to live in the same co-housing community with people. No, it's a matter of consciousness, knowing that somebody in Bulgaria, Botswana, or Bolivia is with you, is like you, even if you never know their name or never meet them. We're part of this global family. That's what's going on. And the sacred sites are putting out this sort of radiant energy that is awakening this consciousness in people around the globe. It's great stuff, great news.
Where can everybody get a hold of you? And are you going to be speaking? And do you do tours anymore? Do you lead tours?
No, I don't do lead tours anymore. And I did one slideshow about a month ago just to test out a new thing that I'm going to do, but I won't probably do another slideshow till like 2019. Later this year, I'm going to Iraq, Oman, Algeria, and about 15 countries in Western Africa. Then I'm going to come back next year. And then in 2019, I'm probably going to go live in a Mercedes Sprinter van and just travel around Europe doing these slideshows, which I'm now calling group shamanic events. Think of this. You got 500 people in a hall. You got big, beautiful screens showing these slides while beautiful music is playing, and different people key in and resonate with different sites. And the pictures are not pictures, they're windows. So in a dark hall, if the light of those sites comes into the room and it's touching all of these people, and you have 500 people being touched, and there's this music playing, it becomes a visual rave that's a group shamanic event. In the next 2-3 years, starting in 2019, I'm going to do like 400 or 500 of those slideshows in cities all over Europe. And, that's going to be magnificent, magnificent. That's the second to the last stage. Then the last stage, which I won't tell you what it is, but it's really, really cool. Really cool. But the next stage of my work, starting in 2019, will be do about 500 of these slideshows, 500 cities in Europe.
You're a treasure and a gift, my friend. Thank you so much for this, and I can't wait to get you back on the show. We'll talk about that later. But in the meantime, keep doing what you're doing. And it's sacredsites.com, everybody. The links are at Jimmy Church Radio. Martin Gray, an extraordinary conversation, and thank you for sharing with everybody tonight.
Thanks. Your great questions. Great. I liked it. Love you. Bye. I'm going to go have dinner.
You're the best. Good night. Martin Gray, everybody. What a conversation. And all of the images, go to sacredsites.com. Everything is right there. And National Geographic is it only has the very best. And I think you can tell why now. What a conversation. Woo, man. 5 hits of LSD. That's what I'm talking about. All right, I've got a couple of minutes left here. Absolutely extraordinary. I'm short on words, so I'm going to go to some text to get me out of here with all of the news that you know absolutely nothing about. Ancient volcanic deposits on the moon reveal new evidence about the lunar interior, suggesting it contains water. That's right. Using satellite data, scientists from Brown University studied lunar pyroclastic deposits, layers of rock that likely formed the large volcanic eruptions. The magma associated with these explosive events is carried to the moon's surface from very deep within its interior. And this is according to a new study published today in Nature Geoscience. Previous studies have observed traces of water, ice in the shadowed regions of the lunar poles. We've known about that for a long time. However, this water is likely the result of hydrogen that comes from solar wind. And this is according to the new study's lead author, Ralph Millikan, a geologist at Brown University. Now, obviously, water on the moon. I've got some more news here in just a second. Think about this. But until then, I'll get to it in a second. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to jump out of his number 88 Chevy after this season in NASCAR and jump right into the broadcast booth for NBC in 2018. And I say it because I'm a Junior fan. So next year, NBC, we get Junior, part of the broadcast crew. Right now, as you hear these words, there's a galactic gold rush, talking about water on the moon, brewing that will make 1840s California look like a rehearsal dinner. Listen to me. At this very moment, a handful of billionaire-backed companies are planning to mine, that's right, the moon, for ungodly reserves of precious metals and other untapped treasures. On the moon alone, quadrillions of dollars of interplanetary pay dirt are at stake. Now, this isn't just a high-flying, hopelessly optimistic plan either. No, they've already built the rockets. The FAA has already given certain companies the all-go for launch. We're talking about cosmic golden nuggets right for the picking right now. Whether we like it or not, some of the wealthiest venture capitalists on Earth will soon launch mining operations on the moon. The treasures these space-age prospectors are seeking are varied and wide. The lunar surface is brimming with not only precious metals and rare isotopes, but also a litany of other natural resources. And one of them, helium-3, currently has a projected value of $40,000 per ounce. Now, to put that in perspective, right now gold is trading at $1,200 an ounce. This incredibly high valuation comes from the isotope's relative rarity here on Earth, as well as potential as a fuel source. Helium-3 could be used as an efficient alternative fuel source in fusion reactors, and about 220 pounds of it could theoretically power Dallas, the city of Dallas, for an entire year. Now, not all of Moon's treasures are quite so exotic, however. Now, you have the rare isotopes and you have precious metals, but you know what? There's also water. Now, if we get there and we find water, right, and we mine for water, think about that. That will be the most precious resource on the moon, right? And now with all of these other mentions today, think about it. Think about it. It's not going to be a gas station on the moon where all the money's going to be made. Oh, no. It's going to be water. Water is going to be the first lunar gas station where they are going to be charging per gallon. And this is another episode of Fade to Black. Got to thank Martin Gray. Was that an incredible conversation? That's what we do here. Man, he kind of put me into a panic mode when he just said he's heading off to Europe. We got to get him back on this show as soon as possible. We got to get him to that Fade to Black conference we're going to be doing up at E72 as well. How would you like to hang out with Martin up there? Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar. Thank you, LJ3, Renee, Jonas, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster, Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is only copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tomorrow night, Ken Knutson, right here. But until then, follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. And everybody be safe. Go Backley Tappy.